The city lights of New York flickered against the backdrop of a clear autumn night, their glow casting long shadows across the luxury penthouse of Richard Caldwell. Situated on the top floor of a towering skyscraper on Fifth Avenue, the penthouse was a testament to Caldwell's success as a high-powered attorney. A spacious, modern abode furnished with sleek, high-end pieces, expansive windows, and a panoramic view of the city that never slept. Richard Caldwell, aged 52, had carved out an impressive career in corporate law, earning him a reputation as one of the sharpest minds in the field. Born and raised in Chicago, Richard had moved to New York in his early 30s, quickly ascending the ranks of the legal world. His dedication to his work, however, came at the cost of his personal life. Married to Evelyn Caldwell, a wealthy socialite, Richard's seemingly perfect life masked a tumultuous and fractured personal world. Evelyn Caldwell, 48, was a prominent figure in New York's elite social circles. Born into old money, she had met Richard at a charity gala shortly after his relocation to the city. Their marriage, once passionate, had grown strained over the years. Evelyn was known for her impeccable fashion sense and frequent appearances at high-profile events. Yet beneath her glamorous exterior, she grappled with the loneliness and resentment that festered in her relationship with Richard. The third key player in this tangled narrative was Isabella Hart, a 27-year-old aspiring artist with an enigmatic allure. Originally from a small town in Vermont, Isabella had moved to New York seeking artistic opportunities. Her path had crossed with Richard's at an art gallery where he had been a patron. What began as a chance encounter soon turned into a passionate affair. Isabella's beauty and charm had captivated Richard, leading to a clandestine relationship that Evelyn was completely unaware of until it was too late. On the night of Richard's death, the scene inside the penthouse was one of chaos. Detective Emily Hayes, a seasoned investigator in her early 40s, arrived at the scene shortly after the call came in. Hayes was known for her meticulous approach and unyielding determination, traits that had earned her respect within the police force. As she entered the penthouse, she was greeted by the sight of an opulent living room, now marred by the presence of a dead body and scattered items. Richard's body lay sprawled on the marble floor near the entrance, a bloodied wound visible on his head. His expensive tailored suit was stained with blood, a stark contrast to the pristine environment of the penthouse. The surrounding area was a mess of broken glass and overturned furniture, suggesting a violent struggle. The initial assessment indicated that Richard had been attacked with a heavy object, likely the crystal vase found shattered nearby. There were no signs of forced entry, which suggested that the attacker was someone familiar with the apartment. The expensive items and artwork remained untouched, further reinforcing the notion that this was not a typical robbery. Detective Hayes began her investigation by speaking to the household staff, who were visibly shaken but offered little information. The doorman and security personnel mentioned nothing unusual, and no suspicious individuals had been seen entering or exiting the building. As Hayes examined the scene more closely, she noticed a large photograph on the wall, a portrait of Richard with a younger woman who was clearly not Evelyn. The photograph, while elegant, was now tinged with an unsettling implication. The woman in the picture was Isabella Hart, her gaze enigmatic and full of unspoken secrets. Hayes's attention was then drawn to a series of personal items scattered across a desk: a few letters, a checkbook, and a diary with the initials IH embossed on the cover. The diary's presence suggested a personal connection, perhaps a clue to the troubled relationship between Richard and Isabella. The police initially considered the possibility of a burglary gone wrong, but the lack of stolen items and the meticulous arrangement of valuable possessions made this theory increasingly unlikely. Hayes knew that the real answer lay in uncovering the relationships and secrets behind the closed doors of the Caldwell penthouse. As Hayes delved deeper into Richard's life, she discovered that his reputation as a successful attorney was just one facet of a complex and troubled individual. His involvement with Isabella Hart had added an additional layer of intrigue and deception to an already complicated situation. The affair was hidden from Evelyn, creating a web of deceit that had likely contributed to the tragic outcome. In the following days, as the investigation unfolded, the picture of a love triangle, marked by betrayal and deceit, began to emerge. Richard's interactions with both Evelyn and Isabella were scrutinized, revealing a tangled mess of emotions and motives. Evelyn's resentment towards Richard and Isabella's manipulative behavior created a volatile mix that ultimately led to Richard's death. Detective Hayes was left with the daunting task of untangling the web of relationships, motives, and secrets to uncover the truth behind the fatal affair. The initial clues pointed towards a deeper, more personal motive for murder, and Hayes knew that solving this case would require uncovering the dark truths hidden behind the facade of wealth and glamour. Detective Emily Hayes spent the following days digging deeper into Richard Caldwell's life, piecing together the fragmented evidence from the crime scene. Her initial findings had hinted at a love triangle, but she needed more substantial proof to understand the full scope of the relationships involved and to unravel the intricate web of deceit that had led to Richard's death. The first lead Hayes pursued was the enigmatic woman in the photograph, Isabella Hart. Hayes arranged for Isabella's background to be thoroughly investigated. Born and raised in a small town in Vermont, Isabella had moved to New York City 4 years prior with dreams of making a name for herself in the art world. Despite her charming demeanor and striking beauty, Isabella's past was far from unblemished. Her family described her as a determined, if somewhat reckless, individual who had often sought validation through romantic entanglements and risky decisions. Isabella had managed to establish herself as an artist with a modest reputation, showing her work in several small galleries around the city. Yet she had struggled financially, a fact that seemed to contrast sharply with the luxurious lifestyle of Richard Caldwell. This discrepancy raised questions about how she had come into contact with Richard and the nature of their relationship. Hayes' team discovered that Isabella and Richard had met at an art exhibition. Richard, known for his penchant for patronizing up-and-coming artists, had taken a particular interest in Isabella's work. Their relationship began with casual meetings and professional interest, but quickly evolved into a romantic affair. It was clear that Richard had been drawn to Isabella's youth and vitality, while Isabella had been captivated by the allure of Richard's wealth and status. The detective's next step was to interview Evelyn Caldwell. Evelyn, while initially cooperative, became visibly agitated when questioned about Richard's recent activities. Her account of their marriage was one of growing discontent. Evelyn recounted how Richard's increasing absences and secretive behavior had caused tension between them. The final straw had come when Evelyn accidentally discovered evidence of Richard's affair with Isabella. During their interview, Evelyn revealed that she had found a series of text messages and emails on Richard's phone. The messages were affectionate and explicit, confirming the depth of the relationship between Richard and Isabella. Evelyn had confronted Richard about the affair, leading to a heated argument. The confrontation had revealed a pattern of deception and dishonesty that had further strained their already troubled marriage. Despite her emotional turmoil, Evelyn provided an alibi for the night of the murder. She claimed to have been attending a charity gala at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, a high-profile event that was well documented. Evelyn's presence at the gala was corroborated by numerous witnesses and security footage, casting doubt on her involvement in Richard's murder. Yet Detective Hayes remained skeptical. Evelyn's anger and betrayal were potent motives, and her detailed knowledge of Richard's affair made her a key suspect in the investigation. To gain more insight, Hayes examined the financial records and correspondence between Richard and Isabella. The financial documents revealed a series of large, unexplained transfers from Richard's accounts to Isabella's. These transactions had occurred shortly before Richard's death, suggesting a financial dependency or blackmail. Isabella had been demanding money from Richard, threatening to expose their affair and its implications if he failed to comply. The detective also found several letters in Richard's office, written by Isabella. These letters were filled with emotional appeals, reflecting Isabella's sense of desperation and frustration. They hinted at a power struggle and manipulation, with Isabella demanding more money and threatening to go public with their relationship. The correspondence painted a picture of a relationship marked by emotional volatility and financial exploitation. Detective Hayes interviewed Isabella's friends and acquaintances, who painted a portrait of a young woman driven by ambition and insecurity. Isabella's friends described her as someone who was willing to go to great lengths to achieve success and maintain a lavish lifestyle. They recounted instances of Isabella's manipulative behavior, suggesting that she might have used her relationship with Richard to secure her financial future. The investigation also uncovered that Isabella had been staying in a rented apartment close to Richard's penthouse. This proximity suggested a level of convenience that could easily facilitate covert meetings and interactions. Hayes examined the rental records and discovered that Isabella had been in the apartment for several months, coinciding with the escalation of her relationship with Richard. As the days passed, the complexity of the case deepened. Evelyn's emotional turmoil and Isabella's financial desperation created a volatile mix. The motive for murder seemed to hinge on a combination of betrayal, greed, and desperation. Evelyn's discovery of the affair and Isabella's blackmail demands both contributed to the tension surrounding Richard's death. Detective Hayes began to piece together the timeline of events leading up to the murder. Richard had been seen with Isabella shortly before the crime, and their last meeting had been marked by a heated argument over money. The confrontation had evidently left both parties agitated, further intensifying the already fraught situation. Interviews with the building's staff and neighbors provided additional context. Several witnesses recalled hearing raised voices from Richard's penthouse on the night of the murder, but none could identify the speakers. The lack of concrete evidence or eyewitnesses left Hayes with a daunting task, unraveling the truth from a tangled web of lies and emotions. As Hayes reviewed the case, she focused on uncovering any potential connections between Evelyn and Isabella that might explain the motive for the murder. The investigation revealed that Evelyn had been suspicious of Richard's activities for months, but had struggled to gather concrete evidence. Her emotional state and recent discoveries made her a prime suspect, yet the alibi provided by the charity gala complicated the case further. The final piece of the puzzle was Richard's own diary, discovered among his personal effects. The diary contained detailed entries about his relationships, including his affair with Isabella. The entries revealed Richard's internal conflict and frustration, adding depth to the narrative of deceit and betrayal that had led to his death. Detective Hayes was now faced with the challenge of sifting through the emotional and financial motives to determine who was responsible for Richard's murder. The tangled relationships and shifting alliances between Evelyn and Isabella created a complex dynamic, and Hayes knew that the truth lay buried beneath layers of deception and betrayal. As she continued her investigation, she remained determined to uncover the hidden motives and bring justice to the victim of this deadly affair. Detective Emily Hayes was increasingly consumed by the complexities of the Caldwell case. The lives of Richard Caldwell, his wife Evelyn, and his lover Isabella Hart had intertwined in a tragic and deadly manner. With each passing day, the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place, revealing a dramatic narrative of deception, greed, and ultimately murder. Hayes spent long hours reviewing all the evidence collected. The photographs, letters, financial records, and testimonies painted a picture of a love triangle fraught with tension and betrayal. Evelyn's alibi from the charity gala was solid, but the evidence suggested that her emotional state had been a significant factor leading up to Richard's death. Isabella's financial demands and manipulative behavior further complicated the case. A breakthrough came when Hayes reviewed security footage from the building's lobby and elevators. The footage captured Evelyn leaving the gala at around midnight, arriving at the penthouse building just before 1 a.m. Hayes noted that Evelyn's arrival was closely followed by a brief but intense argument audible through the security camera's audio. This suggested that Evelyn had come straight from the gala to confront Richard about the affair. The footage also captured Isabella entering the building's lobby around the same time Evelyn arrived. However, Isabella did not go up to Richard's penthouse immediately. Instead, she lingered in the building's lobby, appearing nervous and agitated. The The footage showed her eventually taking the elevator to the penthouse, but the exact timing of her entrance remained unclear. Hayes realized that both Evelyn and Isabella had had access to the penthouse on the night of the murder. Both women had motives. Evelyn had been humiliated and betrayed by Richard's affair, while Isabella faced financial ruin and a looming threat of exposure. The detective needed to piece together the sequence of events that led to the fatal confrontation. A key piece of evidence was found in Isabella's apartment. Hayes discovered a hidden compartment in Isabella's closet containing additional threatening letters addressed to Richard. These letters were filled with demands for more money and veiled threats of public exposure if her demands were not met. The letters confirmed that Isabella had been aggressively pursuing financial gain from her affair with Richard, further establishing her motive. Hayes interviewed Evelyn once more, focusing on her activities and mental state on the night of the murder. Evelyn was visibly distressed, but maintained her innocence, insisting that she had left the penthouse shortly after her confrontation with Richard. She had planned to return to the gala, but a sense of betrayal had overwhelmed her, leading her to leave the scene before the murder took place. Confronted with the evidence, Evelyn's story began to falter. Hayes presented her with the security footage and the threatening letters from Isabella, which showed a pattern of escalating conflict. Evelyn admitted that the confrontation had become heated, but insisted that she had left before anything violent occurred. With Evelyn's statement contradicting the evidence, Hayes turned her attention to Isabella. The young artist's statements had also become increasingly inconsistent. Isabella had claimed that she had gone to the penthouse to confront Richard about his failure to meet her financial demands. Her version of events had been that she had planned to confront Richard and then leave, but the evidence suggested otherwise. Hayes discovered that Isabella had recently purchased a new phone and had wiped her old one clean before the murder. Forensic analysis of the new phone revealed a series of frantic messages and calls made to Richard's cell phone just before his death. The messages indicated that Isabella had been increasingly desperate and angry, demanding immediate payment and threatening dire consequences if her demands were not met. The detective's breakthrough came when forensic evidence linked Isabella to the murder weapon. Analysis of the broken vase found at the crime scene revealed fingerprints belonging to Isabella. The vase had been used to strike Richard in a violent and fatal attack. Isabella's fingerprints on the vase and the threatening letters provided a clear link between her and the crime. Isabella's arrest followed swiftly. During questioning, Isabella initially maintained her innocence, but eventually broke down under the pressure. She confessed to the murder, revealing the full extent of the drama that had unfolded. Isabella admitted that she had gone to Richard's penthouse to demand the money he owed her. The confrontation had escalated when Richard refused to comply, leading Isabella to lose control in a fit of rage. The argument had turned violent, and in a moment of uncontrolled fury, Isabella had attacked Richard with the vase, resulting in his death. Isabella's confession revealed the tragic culmination of the love triangle. The intense emotions and high stakes had driven her to commit murder, hoping to silence Richard and secure her financial future. Her desperation had led her to commit an act of violence that ended Richard's life and destroyed the lives of those involved. Evelyn Caldwell, though cleared of direct involvement in the murder, was left to grapple with the emotional aftermath of the affair and its consequences. The investigation had revealed the depth of betrayal she had suffered, but her role as a distraught wife with a solid alibi spared her from any legal repercussions. The public and social ramifications of the affair were significant, affecting her reputation and social standing. Detective Emily Hayes closed the case with a sense of resolve. The investigation had revealed the dark truths behind the fatal affair and the tragic consequences of betrayal and deceit. The case served as a stark reminder of how personal and emotional conflicts could spiral out of control, leading to irreversible outcomes. As the case concluded, Hayes reflected on the complexity of human relationships and the fragility of trust. The fatal affair had exposed the darker sides of love and ambition, leaving behind a trail of shattered lives and unresolved emotions. The case was a testament to the intricate and often tragic nature of human interactions. a reminder that beneath the surface of wealth and glamour lay a web of deceit capable of causing profound harm.